June 8, 793 AD. Off the northeast coast of England, a small, isolated community of monks looks out over the crashing waves of the North Sea. Out of the heavy sea mist, a fleet of narrow wooden longships appears, piercing through the freezing water and pulling onto the rocky shore. The men who pour out of those ships fall upon the completely unprepared monks, executing them where they stand, stripping the altars of gold and dragging the survivors into slavery. Word of this slaughter spreads rapidly across the continent. Coastal kingdoms suddenly realize that the oceans are highways for attackers who strike without warning and vanish before a local army can mobilize. The attack on Lindisfarne marks the opening blow of an invasion spanning 3 centuries. These raiders from Scandinavia are beginning a process that will weave their culture, laws, and bloodlines into the English landscape. For the first few decades after Lindisfarne, the Norsemen operate as pirates, raiding coastal towns and sailing home with the spoils. In the year 865 AD, their strategy shifts toward territorial occupation. A massive fleet lands on the shores of East Anglia. History remembers them as the Great Heathen Army. Commanded by the warlords Ragnar Lodbrok and his son Ivar the Boneless, they arrive equipped to stay and seize the land. The local Anglo-Saxon rulers are caught off guard. King Edmund the Martyr of East Anglia attempts to buy his survival by offering the invaders horses, shelter, and winter provisions. The Vikings accept the supplies, then capture Edmund and execute him. With the regional defenses broken, the Norsemen sweep westward across the island. By 870 AD, they systematically defeat the remaining Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and capture major capitals like York, replacing local lords with their own commanders. In less than a lifetime, these Scandinavian warriors have scaled up from scattered beach raids to holding vast swaths of territory, bringing nearly the entire English landmass under their control. Only the Kingdom of Wessex withstands the onslaught. Its young leader, King Alfred, is forced to retreat deep into a remote marshland, organizing a desperate guerrilla resistance from the swamps. In 878 AD, Alfred rallies his remaining forces and ambushes the Danish warlord Guthrum at the Battle of Edington. Alfred breaks the Viking ranks and traps Guthrum inside a siege until the warlord yields. To end the hostilities, the 2 leaders negotiate the Treaty of Wedmore. Under the terms, Guthrum must be baptized as a Christian, with Alfred himself standing by the font as his godfather. This religious and political pact effectively divides the realm, splitting England into 2 halves. The Saxons retain the south and west, while the north and east are formally handed over to the Vikings as the Danelaw. Inside this new border, Norse farmers and traders live alongside the Saxons, integrating Old Norse into the local spoken language. Common English words you use right now, sky, egg, ugly, gift, and husband, all originate from this era of settlement. Even the word law and the day Thursday or Thorsday come from the Vikings. The Norsemen secured their most resilient victory through a quiet absorption into the daily vocabulary of the people they conquered. This integration holds for over a century, until a fatal miscalculation shatters the peace. In the early 1000s, King Ethelred the Unready orders a coordinated slaughter of Danish settlers, known as the St. Brice's Day Massacre. The retaliation from Scandinavia is swift. In 1013, King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark launches a fleet across the ocean, driving Ethelred into exile and taking the English crown. Sweyn's son, Canute the Great, solidifies this takeover 3 years later. He rules as a pragmatic politician, appointing local Anglo-Saxon councillors to key positions to stabilize the fractured country. This 11th century manuscript illustrates his strategy. It depicts Canute, a Norse king, standing in reverence alongside the Christian cross, demonstrating his political assimilation. Through a blend of military dominance and calculated diplomacy, Canute manages to unite England, Denmark, and Sweden into one superpower, the North Sea Alliance. 50 years later, in 1066, King Harald Hardrada of Norway launches an invasion force to seize the English throne once again. The English defenders meet him at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Hardrada's army is outmaneuvered and defeated, leaving the Norwegian king dead on the battlefield. That defeat breaks the Scandinavian war machine. After 3 centuries of raids and occupations, the Viking Age is officially over. Their armies leave the shores of Britain, but they leave an undeniable mark behind. Their language has woven itself into the lexicon. Their borders have redrawn the maps of Europe, and their DNA flows through the descendants of the Danelaw. The terror that began at Lindisfarne eventually merged with the land it once threatened. These two distinct worlds collided and combined, leaving the English identity altered by the 3-century occupation.